Hi everyone, I'm Fatima Tescareño, and today I'm going to talk to you about the international responsibility and forms of reparation. This activity seeks to learn about this topic, and I believe it's pretty important to know it, mainly today and nowadays, because we're living a pretty specific, you know, stage in our world and our life. So we have to know what's this and how it's applying in nowadays happens, the things are happening, all the conflicts and wars and stuff that is going on. So let's start with the first thing, which is, wait a second, just the following. First, what is international responsibility? What it sticks for? What it mean? What does it mean? So we found that international responsibility arises or happens when a state is violating an obligation under an international law, making them have legal consequences for their actions and the wrongdoing of their actions. Basically, is when you make something that is wrong, you have to lead with the consequences of these actions. It means that the states must respect international agreements, their treaties, and the customary law, so they can be part of the global stage. They can have legal consequences. We're talking about the rules they have to follow, and when they break them, they have a legal responsibility, as the topic says. So they have to repair the damage they're making. This has a purpose, as all the things in our lives, like in a society. Also, the states have to deal and answer for their consequences for their actions. So, and the main purpose of this action is for maintaining the order, fairness, and the accountability and international responsibilities and relations. It's mainly to seek having kind of peace or being well with every state and don't have to fight, or when they fight, they have to have consequences. So, when does international responsibility occur? When does it happen? When does a state is following or a state is having something that is not is not ideal, something that is not has to happen? When does the international responsibility has to be part of it? So it happens when the international or a state breaches an obligation through their actions or their omissions. First of all, we have the treaty violation. This means that they have ratified an agreement. They accede, they just said like, yeah, I want to follow it. I want to be part of it. But at the end of the day, they're not following it, and actually, they breaking the law. They're breaking something that they said before they were going to do. Now, they have the human right abuses. This responsibility also means when you're talking about humanity and the people. When you are violating human rights, you're breaking laws. They have laws about human rights and all the things they have to follow, and having we need to follow the states and need to lead and be ruled by those, and when they don't follow them, it's something they can do. Now, wait a minute. We have cross-border harm. They making harm, or damaging other state, other territory that is not theirs, making unlawful actions, or actually, taking those as their own property and there isn't. So that's something, as we know, is wrong. It's something that, for example, that happened with Russia and Ukraine, sorry. And it was something that actually Russia invades those place. It is an international responsibility, and they have to pay for their actions. Now, the obligation later. They have to fulfill an international law. They have to fulfill what they requested, and they just don't. They don't follow, or they just know you're like, I'm not doing it, and they have to pay for it. Now, we have the forms of reparation. When they don't succeed making this responsibility, they don't do it, we have to follow a series of reparations. We have to, yeah. make this consequences act. We have three of them, as we can mention. They're restitution, compensation, and satisfaction. This aim to restore justice and make, as I mentioned, make the breach or the action, like kind of repaired, even though it's already happened. So, it's kind of something to just seems like it's okay, but it is not okay. We have restitution, as it sees the word, restoring the original situation before the wrongful act occurred. It's like restoring what you did. Now, compensation. It can be a financial payment for damages they cannot be reversed. You have to pay for it. Like for example, in the First World War, when Germany, you know, as I remember, like they have to pay for the countries because they were the country that lost, and they were like they needed to pay for the countries for all the damages they made. And now satisfaction is about the symbolic and moral reparations to acknowledge wrongdoing. It means, you make a mistake, you have to acknowledge that you actually made the mistake. Now, I'm gonna talk a bit more about each of them and give them example so you can be fully aware of what I'm talking about. So we have restitution, having to restore the original situation. It seeks to erase the consequences of the wrongful act. In this one, we seek to repair the action, repair what it was the wrongdoing. As I mentioned, even though it's actually impossible, sorry, to make it. For example, returning confiscated property, assets, or territory to rightful owners. For example, in Ukraine or Russia, the ideal thing to happen is to Russia to give Ukraine, sorry, I don't remember the territory they were taking. If I don't remember if it actually happened, but it was the ideal in this case. Also, releasing individuals who were illegally detained or imprisoned. In the case, for example, in the US and Maduro, they trapped this president or this dictator and went to another place. For some people, it was something wrong, and they have a legal responsibility and international responsibility. And the main thing is to return Maduro. I don't believe it, but some people say it. So that's part of the idea of this part of the resolutions. Or also reversing illegal administrative decisions. When you have something, you apply a law and it's not working, or some people are against it, you restore it and it's okay. It's alright. I'm not doing anything of it. So yeah, actually making all the things that were wrong back to original. Now, we have compensation. Mainly is financial payments for damages. We can have three kinds of compensations: have infrastructure damage, economic losses, and personal injury. We say that this means mainly about having a monetary payment, making for example, when you have a crash between two cars and you were the one responsible, you have to pay for it. In this case, it's basically just the same, but more intensified, meaning in the worldwide scenario. For example, infrastructure damage is when a state destroys some buildings, roads, or bridges, or have any physical infrastructures destroyed. You have to pay for it, meaning this was for a military action or negligence, meaning like for example, now when we're having the U.S. also, when Iran or those countries are currently like in kind of a war, if we have to confront international responsibility, this was the main thing they have to do: pay for it. Now, economic losses, loss of profits or an economic harm from something illegal, something was not right, they have to prepare them as the personal injury. Just having some physical injuries, health damages, they have to pay it also. Finally, we have satisfaction, symbolic and moral reparations. This means mainly when you make something wrong, one of the main things that some people needs is when you make the wrong stuff, you know You acknowledge and said, okay, I was wrong. I know and I'm sorry. That's the main thing of satisfaction. Making the other party know that you are sorry and you know what you did. So maybe that's it. That's it. We only have to do it. We have formal apologies, for example, an official expression of regret and remorse from state authorities. For example, some president saying, "I know what our country did, and I know that's wrong. So, we are acknowledging and we are sorry." Or also like making a public recognition worldwide of making wrong actions or public statements. It's pretty similar, but at the end of the day, is making a public or acknowledging something that you did wrong, you know? So, in conclusion, this means or international responsibility looks for justice, making all states have their own responsibility of their actions. So they cannot be like pretty free or making like I want to do whatever I want and I don't care what other people says or other country says. Is this thing like a way? They are not allowed to be, free in all what they want. If, for example, we can say if the US has the idea of having more money, more territory, more things, but international responsibility looks for this kind of ideas not to follow because all the states have their own rights and all the states have their voice. So, yeah. We have to state accountability. As I mentioned, all states have their own voice and all of them has to answer for their actions. Now, restorative justice is having about what I meant the slides before about restitution, compensation, and satisfaction. Having some comprehensive mechanisms to repair the damage and restore justice. And at the end, we have global cooperation, having the principles their own main principles, having order, fairness, and cooperation among all the nations, and following the rule of law and international relations. At the end, or in long story short, we have to follow the rules, the treaties, the conventions the states required and acknowledged. So we can have kind of a pretty calm peace and all the states can run as they meant to. But as we know, this is theory. In the real life, we're having so much trouble and so much problems, and the international responsibility is not being at all acknowledged, and countries are not following it. Something pretty worrying for us because we don't know what other scenarios can this lead to. So we have to be careful, and we need to know this in order that maybe we can do anything because we're just pretty simple people, but we have to know it. We know that any country has their responsibility and their actions have consequences. So we just need to know this kind of things. So this is it of my presentation. It was pretty fast, a pretty simple topic, but I would like you to be happy or get to know what this means, so you can also, as I did, know more about it and follow and maybe think about investigating a bit more, and maybe in the future we can talk more about it. So thank you very much and hope we see us in a short while. So, thank you.